Are you ready to shatter ceilings, to redefine what's possible in your life and business? Then welcome to the Beyond Woman podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of empowerment, the art of crafting a lifestyle business that truly serves you, and the tools to unlock your most authentic, powerful self. I'm your host, Jacqueline Walker-Johnson, and here we celebrate the women who are rewriting the rules, the visionaries carving their own paths, and the experts who are sharing their hard-won wisdom to guide us all. Join us for intimate conversations with women who are not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Women who have the expertise and the sheer grit to empower you to step into your limitless potential. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and transformed. This is the Beyond Woman podcast. Let's begin. Today's conversation is brought to you by the Beyond Woman magazine, a magazine for the Caribbean woman, created to inspire growth, healing, and success through powerful stories and meaningful features. From entrepreneurs and leaders to everyday women doing extraordinary things, we spotlight the women that deserve to be seen and read about. Visit www.TheBeyondWomanMag.com to learn more. Our guest today is Dr. Kerriann Peart, a trusted voice on leadership, burnout, and professional well-being, particularly among women navigating complex organizational systems. With a background spanning organizational psychology, public health, and executive coaching, she brings both academic rigor and lived leadership experience to the stage. Her work challenges traditional notions of high performance that prioritize output at the expense of people. Instead, Dr. Peart equips leaders with the insight and tools required to lead with clarity, cultural awareness, and emotional intelligence in environments shaped by constant change, pressure, and uncertainty. Known for her grounded presence and incisive perspective, Dr. Peart works with executives, managers, and professional women across the Caribbean and the diaspora. Her speaking engagements are reflective, direct, and deeply relevant, inviting leaders to rethink how success is defined and sustained. All right, so welcome back to another Beyond Woman conversation. And today we're talking about leading while evolving, burnout, perimenopause, the topic that we cannot talk too much about, and the identity shift of the Caribbean woman. So there's a conversation that is happening globally about women in leadership, or I should just say it's an ongoing conversation. I believe we haven't fully localized it to the Caribbean experience to the extent that we should. And globally, women report higher burnout rates than men. Research from McKinsey Company and leanin.org shows women leaders are significantly more likely to report emotional exhaustion. Data from Deloitte indicates nearly half of women say they feel burned out, many citing invisible labor, constant performance pressure, and the need to prove themselves. Now, when we add a little bit of biology into this, research published in the Lancet highlights that perimenopause, which can begin in the late 30s to early 40s, can impact cognition, mood, sleep, memory, and overall workplace performance. Now, when we bring that into the Caribbean context, we are high-performing women, we are very visible women, we are community-centered, of course, and we are often the emotional backbone of our families. We are carrying a lot, and not only for our families, but also the organizations that we work in. But guess what? We're also human. And today's conversation is about leadership development. It's about organizational change. It's about burnout, perimenopause, and professional identity, specifically through the lens of us Caribbean women. And we have with us, of course, the expert in leadership, all things leadership, Dr. Kerriann Peart, to bring some kind of perspective to the conversation. So welcome, Dr. Kerriann. How are you doing? How are things where you are? Are you like one of those people absorbing what's happening in the news right now, or have you turned it off? Talk to me.
I turn it off as much as possible until my husband feels like he needs to tap into something. But yeah, it has been a lot. It's a lot going on globally, and then so much angst in the region because we have our own, well, localized impacts and then the residuals from these global effects. So very, very curious times. I tell people quite often, I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone.
Oh, wow.
Twilight Zone. Yeah.
It is. I haven't quite put like a word or whatever, a theme to it. I haven't because I try to stay away, honestly. I try to protect my peace and my mental space, especially now. But guess what? My husband is like your husband, or I don't know if it's a man thing. And he's just glued onto YouTube. So
oh Lord. Yeah.
I don't escape it entirely, but I try to protect myself as much as possible because I don't know, I'm a believer that if you can't change it, if you can't influence it, then don't let it
don't let it influence you.
Protection of peace is utmost where I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm very excited about this conversation that we're talking about. And as a matter of fact, it's very personal to me. It's so funny that when, I spoke with you about what it is that, we could possibly talk about. And then this idea of, burnout and leadership came to the fore. And it's so funny. I was going through this thing that I didn't even realize. I couldn't even name it. I've heard it. I've also had a conversation prior to now about a little bit about burnout, but I've never been in that kind of space. And something was just off, where I'm concerned. And like I said, I couldn't put a name to it. I just felt funny. I felt fearful. I felt anxious when I need to move over to the Beyond Woman and do some work. I mean, oh God, it was like, I don't know. It was a lot for me. And I just could not understand until something hit and I'm like, I wonder if I'm burnt out. Because creatively, I couldn't, my creative spark seemed to have also went missing.
Yes.
I just didn't want to interact. And if you really look over onto the page, there's really not much happening. I mean, I think right now I'm pushing myself to begin, to interact with persons and, to just get myself back into the space because of course we know that we have work to do nonetheless.
Yes.
So I was very excited when we decided on this topic of burnout and perimenopause. And I'm very excited to get into all of it with you, Dr. Kerriann. And I want to ask you, when high-performing women, because we're all high performers, right? When we hit burnout, this thing called burnout, like myself, why does shame, I think the anxiety that I felt, I was like, how do I tell people that this thing is called, what is this? So when high-performing women hit burnout, why does shame surface so easily, so quickly? And why do many women leaders feel embarrassed to admit that they're exhausted?
Yeah. You know what it is, Jackie? We, as Caribbean women in particular, we didn't see models of that level of emotional vulnerability. We didn't see that from our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, etc. We saw emotional vulnerability to a point, and you communicate, you're tired, right? I'm tired, I feel a little, uneasy, grumpy. Let me just go sleep or cook something and go rest type of thing. But when it comes to that point of feeling disengaged, like you're mentioning, your creative spark has not just dipped, but it's gone into this lull, and you just don't know how to reignite or find the fuel again. Those conversations were not had amongst us as women, amongst our mothers, and then passed on to us. So we because we didn't see it modeled in a comfortable way, we feel shameful to admit this is something beyond just being regular tired. And I don't feel like I really want to be around people. I don't like people right now. Like, how dare you say that as a Caribbean person, right? We're supposed to be some of the most fun-loving people on the planet, right? People want to be around us because we're vibesy and dynamic. And how you dare come to talk about you don't feel like being engaged at that level anymore. So there is that shame, that guilt. And then worse, if you are the Caribbean woman who is an icon in her community.
I was about to ask you that, yes.
If you are someone who is out there all the time and people know you for your vibrance and for your engagement and that way, that sass and savviness you have about you, Lord of mercy, for you to admit that you're not feeling it right now is a weight. If you are a mother, I see it a lot with my clients who are mothers, to admit that sometimes they just do not wish to be around their children. How dare you say that? What do you mean you don't want to be around your children? No, you can't be saying that. But these are the realities of our circumstance, because each identity that we carry not only comes with a particular level of responsibility, but it also comes with a significant weight. And we cannot carry those weights equally and consistently all the time. And that is what we push to do, and subsequently get into this space of severe burnout. And some of us normalize that severe burnout.
Yeah, that is the point right there. The fact that we normalize these things, and as you said, I guess it's because of our culture, of what we have grown up with. It is normal for us to rise to the occasion. And I'm always thinking, persons who are in the space of empowerment, who empowers that person? You pour a lot into others, but what about when that moment comes when you're kind of tapped out? Who helps to refill? Yes, you have women around you, but the kind of refill that you need,
right?
And for you to say, okay, for someone to say, okay, I see you, I see what's going on with you. And listen, it's okay for you to take a break. Because as you said, how unheard of, Yeah. And I feel like that is a conversation that we need to be having, that it is okay for you to disappear. It is okay for you to be able to, it took me a while to identify what was going on, because I am passionate about what I do.
Yes, of course.
But if something is amiss and, I get a little bit confused, what's going on here? And then, I would love to have somebody say to me, hey, I understand, and it's okay. It's okay for you to take some time away, Absolutely. But then another thing is that we have gotten so caught up with the fact that we have to be present and we have to be visible. And this is sometimes pushed by social media. I have to do something. And if I disappear for a minute, then everything's going to crash.
All about, yes.
So I believe that all of these things combine. But we have to, I guess, as women, know that it is there are times when we have to choose ourselves and we have to take the time away and do what we need to do to replenish. And I do that a lot. I make no apologies about it. But, this particular thing, I just couldn't understand what was going on. And it is still going on.
Yes.
Right, it's still going on. But how do we distinguish burnout from depression?
Oh, yeah. So it is something oftentimes it's a little nuanced in its distinctions, but it's a matter of tracking things over time. And I often tell clients, give yourself kind of a 3 month, maybe 4 months, and some clients even 6 months, to kind of diligently track your emotions, your behavior patterns over time. Do you recognize things where if you time out from work, for instance, for 2 weeks and you feel lifted, you feel good, you're, I can breathe and it's fine. You get into whatever personal rhythms on the vacation or the sabbatical, whatever it is, and you feel good. And the energy is there and you can focus and carry forward. Then you transition back to work and things go back into a dip. More than likely, that's a burnout piece. It's very environmental with your burnout component. Depression actually is an element of burnout, depending on how far into your burnout experience you are. Depression could be a potential diagnosis. And with depression, now we're talking about very persistent states of low energy, detachment, not motivated, not interested in a number of things, particularly things that were very energizing for you and very empowering for you, no longer there. And the diagnosis for depression, that takes place over a window, generally, for most of the work that I have witnessed, over a period of about 3 months. So that's why I tell people, give yourself kind of a 3-month space to track certain things and see what happens when you step away from particular environments or activities, and how does your energy calibrate then versus when you're actually in it. So it can, some people are like, okay, Lord, I just feel depressed. But you can feel depressed for a moment. And when you change your environment or your pace of effort and that kind of thing, you're back on 10, you're good. Then more than likely, it's kind of like a temporary depression. But if it's persistent, it's that key of being persistent in over a period of time, then we're probably looking at a diagnosis of depression. And like I say, it could probably be encapsulated in an experience or cycle of burnout.
I want to talk a little bit about the recovery from burnout, right? Sure. And I want to talk about how does Kerriann, we talked a little bit about it to say that the culture that we grow up in can push us towards the burnout phase, right?
Yes.
We talk about this, the resilience and push through mentality. How does this affect the burnout recovery? Or how does it complicate it?
Oh Lord, it complicates it in so many ways. As somebody who has had 3 burnout cycles, I've had 3 significant experiences of burnout in my career. The pushing through, I can tell you, is not it, right? This idea of, look, let me just push through. Let me just continue going with all of this weight and this baggage and this frustration and this tension. That is not the way.
Because we can't function in it, right?
We can function in it. I tell you, many of us normalize it, right? But it is not the right thing to do. It is not the right approach to take, because you can further put yourself into more burnout that way, right? And then burnout becomes persistent for you as an individual. So in terms of the recovery component, and I love that you brought up this cultural piece around our identity as being resilient. We are a very resilient population, group of people, right? We absolutely are. But I have to say that in many instances, I think we are living out toxic resilience.
Wow.
And let me contextualize this further for your listeners. It is the point at which toxic resilience is a point at which we get to saying, you know what, I'm going to just continue going this way and wait and see. Because say at some point it's going to get better. So the push through, you validate your pushing through. You justify it, right? If I just continue on this path and, all right, maybe I can take a little pause here, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And you keep going, and people may see you and say, oh, goodness, you're still working on that. You're still working there. My goodness, you're resilient. Look, you do so well. Look, you're strong. Oh, my gosh. All of these things. And it conditions you to believe that this dysfunction and this dysregulation that you are now embodying is appropriate to normalize.
Right.
That's the toxic resilience.
Yes. Got it. Yes. That is a big thing. And I think that is what we experience anyway. It's not even like maybe this is what happens.
Oh, no.
I think that generally, this is, I tell you, we talk about our Caribbean culture, and it's a beautiful thing, because I think that our culture allows us to be so unique.
Absolutely.
I love our culture. I have no problem with it, but I know that within our culture, embedded in it, are some
Yes.
toxicity that
Yes.
we need to call out, and we
Absolutely.
need to change the narrative. And
Mhm.
that is why we're having conversations like this, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times people might think that you guys can talk about something else, talk about something that is light, but it's so important for us to have these conversations so that we
Yes.
understand what we're going through, why we're going through what we're going through, and for us to change the narrative, as I said, because we have a younger generation that's coming behind us and we want to change it
Yes.
for them. We don't want to
Absolutely.
perpetuate this kind of, nonsense, I would call it. Love the grandparents, love the
Oh,
mothers,
yes.
but
Oh,
listen to me. At some point, we have to call it what it is, and we have to do better for the young ladies that are coming behind, and even the men too, because they have to know how to treat us. They need to know what we're going through,
gosh. Oh, gosh.
and
Oh, my
it's
goodness.
just a big conversation, and I love it, and I will
It,
not stop talking about
it
it. And I'm
is.
pretty sure
Yes.
that you are not going to stop talking about it
Oh, no. I
either.
talk about it all the time. I mean, the side of things, I was talking to a colleague last week, and she sent me some information around um, women that she's been working with, and she found some articles to support. And the term that stood out for her that I then found out some more around is cognitive overload. That women experience this concept of cognitive overload at a higher rate than men. And it compounds our experiences in burnout and our experiences in motherhood, our experiences in our leadership roles, all of those elements. Because what it's speaking to is the ways in which we as women, we do this, do that, do this, do that. We're here, we're there, and everywhere. We keep the calendar for the husband, we keep the calendar for the children, sports days, keep the calendar for your boss, you keep the calendar for your business. All of that is wear and tear on your cognitive capacity. And so this concept of cognitive overload is where I find a number of my clients as well. And again, operating in that as a norm. Okay? Like what you said earlier. But if, I can hear some of them now, but Dr. Kerry, if I don't manage the house calendar and my calendar and my husband's calendar, then who going to do it? And
But guess what? It is the truth, because I think this is a conversation that I had in January. I don't think it is wrong as women for us to be that way. I think we're innately wired that way.
correct.
However, the thing about it is, how do we regulate things? How do we manage
Thank
ourselves
you.
within that kind of space,
Thank you.
though?
Exactly.
That's the important thing.
That is the important thing. And that is always my question to my clients. So you're telling me you're doing A through T this week, and then next week is A through Z. How are you finding space and time to recalibrate yourself, right? Where can you delegate something to somebody else and leave it with them? Because this is another thing I want to talk about, Jackie. The way that we will say to somebody, oh, here, can you help me with this? Because, many of us don't even want to ask for help. So when we ask for help now and give it to the person to do, then we get into a tense mode because are they going to do it the way I like it done? Right? Is my husband going to fold the clothes the way I like them folded? And, are the children going to clean the kitchen the way I like it? We need to learn how to delegate for our sanity.
Right.
And calibration.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Otherwise, when you drop down, what we go do next? And we know that when you drop down on the job, two twos then replace you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Within a week for most companies, that person's position is already temporarily filled.
And I'm happy that you brought up the workplace situation, because here's a question. What do you think? How can companies, organizations create an environment that, or put in structures that will help the woman to not get burned out on the job?
Yeah. So this is where you're now tapping into the conversation that I have when it comes to health equity under my public health body of work. When we talk about the differences between men and women on a job, we are now appealing to not just the fact that both men and women can work on this job, that's, they have equal opportunity. That's the equality level. But in the job, in order for each party to operate in integrity and at a high quality, there are nuances that need to be met. And meeting those nuances, we're now talking about equity. And so for women, when we're talking about women in the workplace, it's beyond just getting a gym membership. Many companies will give us gym memberships, right? Wonderful. And they might give you massage days and that kind of thing. Great. But beyond that, because that still is giving equal stuff. Beyond that, where do we as women tap into the EAP resources even deeper to say we need coaching for this?
What is EAP?
Oh, sorry. EAP stands for Employee Assistance Programs.
Okay.
Yes. So within most companies, they have an EAP segment under the umbrella of HR. The human resource team manages that. And the EAPs would have particular free sessions for coaching, counseling, or other specialized services that employees would say, if I have a disability, they would go through an EAP program to get unique resourcing for their disability. Likewise, for women in the workplace, there are some unique resources we need, right? And what that means for learning how to better delegate, better recalibrate emotionally and mentally on the job.
I love that. Yeah.
All of those things. So it's a matter of asking in the workplace, because many workplaces already provide, but we don't ask. So it's a matter of asking. And then based on what is provided, finding out how can it be further tailored for the experience that you're having on the job. So workplaces will accommodate to a point. And I would say that over the past 10 years, greater accommodations have been made globally within workplaces. But it's a matter of employees asking, tapping in, and recognizing what it is they need and moving from there.
Okay, well, that is just a matter of asking if there's an awareness that it exists. Because to be honest, yes, I know that HR will do those sorts of things. They have the personal development seminars and all of that. But I don't know if, generally speaking, within the Caribbean context, I've been out of corporate for like about 13 years. So I don't know what changes have been made, but certainly when I was there, I myself was not aware of, the fact that embedded within HR or included under the HR umbrella, that those things are available. I didn't know, like I said, from time to time, they would have these things, these personal development sessions for staff. And I remember my last job was just a wonderful place to exist in, because, there are certain corporations that really invest in their employees, that the well-being and all of that. So, but generally speaking, especially maybe from the perspective of government employees, you know what I mean? So I'm happy that you mentioned that. And for persons who are listening, then that HR has an EAP program. Go and ask them about it. And see how it is that they can support you, the individual. That's wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that. Yes. All right. So we talked about burnout, and we're going to talk about something else which is similar, and it's perimenopause. It's mental health. Yeah. I don't know if you see Camille Buchanan. She is the CEO of Bellevue.
Oh, no.
In Jamaica. She's doing such a wonderful job of really, bringing to the fore this whole matter of mental wellness, mental health, and putting it alongside other things that we go through that, we would go to the doctor for.
Right.
She's saying to us that, listen, your mental health is as important as a high blood pressure diagnosis.
Absolutely.
You need to take it seriously. And I love that she's doing those wonderful things in that space. Yes. And I also saw a clipping of Taraji P. Henson recently where she talked about mental health as it relates to perimenopause.
Yeah, quite a few making the connection. Yeah.
Listen, that's a newbie for me. And not only was it a newbie, but it was like a aha moment for me.
Okay.
I tell you, this whole conversation is very personal, but I will get into my,
that's okay.
bout with the mental health and the perimenopause because that was crazy. That was a crazy period. But I want us to talk a little bit about the mental health aspect and the perimenopause that we go through, and also how does it affect women in the workplace. And not just women in the workplace, but just women in general, right? Because sometimes we call what we're going through, we call it stress, we call it weakness, we call it lack of discipline, when sometimes it is really something hormonal that is happening within us. Yes. And we don't know, So I want to ask you, Dr. Kerriann, how does perimenopause impact a woman's professional identity in ways that she don't even know or would not have anticipated?
Yeah. So a number of things come to my mind really quickly. Scattered thinking, the shift in how your thought patterns now come around. The scattered thought processes, you can't hold on to one particular thought to tease it out properly. Many women report symptoms like that. The lack of thinking, the brain fog, like you can't, have a thought. It's like, wait, I can't even find the thought. Right?
That is too funny.
So there's the scatteredness, there's the brain fog. You can't find the thought at all. And those things send a number of women who are very used to being decisive into a state of panic.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, why can I not concentrate and just do the thing anymore? Hormone fluctuations said, no, girl, time for us to learn a different way of being. Right? So that I've noticed with myself and with a number of folks I've been working with in the space. Another piece too is the energy dip. There can be, a good spike in the morning. You're up, you do your thing in the morning, you get into the office and you're fine. And all of a sudden by 1 p.m., it's like you're tapped out. You've reached a threshold. You can't go beyond that point. Your energy starts to wane drastically. And then that impacts your cognitive functions even more. So if you're scattered, you're going to be more scattered. If the brain fog is present, it's more brain fog because the energy isn't there to clear and calibrate. So that too puts a mental toll and then physical, emotional toll as well.
So another aspect that I wanted for us to touch on is during this period, and we're really kind of, in this segment, we're really kind of focusing on women in the workplace, right? So you talk about the fact that the woman was usually one that's decisive, there's no second thoughts. She knows what she's about. And when this begins to happen to her, she begins to think of herself as a failure.
Yes.
Yes. Because all of this is new. And I mean, I've been traversing this road for a while, and let me tell you something, all the symptoms are different. Today, it's one thing. Tomorrow or next month, rather, it's another thing. So it's a little bit confusing. And each time it catches you off guard. Yeah. So speak to that woman who might be going through this season and not really, she knows she's going through it. Yeah. But for some reason, it's not normal. Like, she can't accept it that, okay, this is my way of being for a while, and I'm thinking to myself that I'm a failure, I'm not functioning at work. Speak to
One of the things I tell my clients to do is to take a moment and step back and just look at your life as a woman. There are some significant points of invitation that we receive as women. We have our period, that's an invitation, right? That's your invitation into womanhood. You have pregnancy, invitation into motherhood. Get married, invitation into the wifehood, right? You have perimenopause, it's an invitation into another identity. So if we can understand that there are significant points along the spectrum of a woman's life where she is invited to be a new identity of a greater competency and greater capacity, which now requires a different functioning, then we can start to navigate. Because what is happening to many of us, and I guess it's happening to me as well, is that we get these shifts coming. And for some of us, it's like, okay, I feel a little thing, but whatever. And we keep going, right? We keep functioning in the way that we know for the past 5, 10, 15 years. And the invitation is asking you, can we learn something new now for a different degree of function and capability instead of spiraling into panic? And understanding that, I think this is where a lot of us need to speak to our healthcare providers in a unique way. Like, listen, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. What do I now need to do differently to function at this level? Because it's not going to be the same way that you've been functioning before. So it may mean new exercises, different supplements in your diet. It may mean learning how to delegate differently, tapping into different resources for your strategic methodology. All of that is a different calibration, right? You're tapping into a different frequency, to say it a different way. So it is, I hear you when a lot of women, I've heard them say, Lord, I feel like I'm weak. I have to be delegating this, or I have to be asking for help more now than I did before. I can't make decisions as quickly as before. So this is a weakness. I'm not capable anymore. And it's not that. It's not that. It is now you are being invited to operate at a different level with different tools and strategies. That is the lens that we need to apply to it.
Yeah, I guess it is important. Awareness is important,
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of the average woman who just find herself into the this kind of situation. If she's gonna be thinking rationally like that, but then as you said, that is where if you speak to your healthcare provider, which hopefully it's not a young person and they do understand what you're going through, because I've heard women, I've read stories as well of women going through things for years.
Yes.
And they are visiting with their healthcare provider, but it's just, and that is why they always say, when you visit your doctor, say, I am within this age group.
Yes.
I know this is what I'm going through.
Yes.
What do I need to do? Because a lot of the times it's just a prescription, a diagnosis, a prescription. Yeah. It's not like the person is understanding what you're really going through as a woman.
Right.
How serious this, you yourself don't even understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
a real roller coaster ride. And a lot of times you cannot even articulate fully what it is you're feeling or because I know I have days where I have to say to my husband, today's a day where I don't think you want to ask me for certain things because I may not answer you properly. I may snap at you, or I may just actually I don't know. Like, I don't know right now. Right. So today may not be the day to tackle certain things for me. And it sounds funny, but it helps him to understand now how to orient around me, right? And where he needs to pick up where I left off with something. Because again, it's not every day that I am at the capacity to do all the things that I normally do. Some days my husband needs to take out the laundry and do that, right? So there are things that you have to learn to negotiate differently when these invitations come to you.
Yeah, it's good that you brought in the husband aspect of it. And I just love the time that we're in terms of social media and the information that is out there.
Yes.
And half of the time, these memes and stuff, they're funny, but it's the reality of what women are going through.
Yes.
And it lends to the awareness, of what we're going through, and it makes it a little bit more understandable.
Absolutely.
Listen, I can share this little piece. I believe that I've been going through this thing since I was in my 20s. Now that I look back and I see how I used to interact with life, there's just this constant feeling of overwhelm. I remember when I was doing was it my master's? Anyway, one of those programs that I was doing. And at the end of the program, this was so funny. At the end of the program, my group members, we were just talking and rapping. And they say, when we saw you first, we thought you were mental. And they were very serious about it. But I'm just saying to you that I feel like I've been going through this since I was in my 20s. And the thing is that at that time, you're explaining how you feel and nobody's identifying with it.
Yes.
So I'm very happy about the space that we're in and the awareness that the space has created for us as women, for others to show us compassion and empathy and understanding, because that's what we need.
Absolutely.
That's what we need. We're not using it as a crutch.
No.
Or anything like that. It is just the reality of what we're going through.
Right.
And it is wonderful that persons are able to understand and empathize and to learn more about this whole matter of perimenopause. I wanted also to first talk a little bit about as I talk about the understanding that the awareness has created. What does empathetic leadership, I should say, look like in the workplaces with women who are navigating this whole matter of perimenopause?
Yes. I love this question because it knocks right on one of my core pillars of my work in both consulting for workplace issues and coaching folks going through things. And that pillar is that of emotional intelligence. And strengthening your emotional intelligence helps you as an individual, period, but uniquely as a leader to develop this empathy that allows you to not just hear what someone is going through, but to move from hearing to deep listening and tapping into not just leading, but now coaching, coming alongside the person to find out, well, what are the unique resources that you feel you need? Or is it a matter of, would you like some space to investigate the resources that we have available in the company? So empathetic leadership for me is that strategy of shifting you from being out front as the leader to now being alongside your direct reports or teammates and really helping to coach them or to help them recalibrate, find the words that they need to describe what the experience is and then what the resources are that they need from there.
So now I have a follow-up question to this matter of empathetic leadership in the organization. What do you think about we spoke about HR having different sessions or tools that can help our women to thrive during this whole matter of perimenopause. But what do you think about organizations proactively? Do you think this is something that organizations should do? Be more proactive in terms of educating the leaders within the organization about this journey of perimenopause and the impact that it can have on the organization itself?
Yeah. I think yes, right? The way I even used to do, for instance, the mental health sensitivity trainings for companies. I think it's the same way a company can have someone come in and do perimenopause sensitivity trainings for the organization across departments, right? It is important to have it as a proactive approach. Absolutely. Because it is then putting the organization in that space of being social responsible, right? As well as promoting the organization as a psychologically safe space for their employees. So there's a lot of good that comes of it for the organization, and how its respectability politics gets elevated, and then of course the folks within feel a lot more valued and heard, and it's not always going to be about performance metrics, but it's about me as a whole person, my whole professional identity in this space from 9 to 5, 10 to 6, or however long people work, that is also being respected. Mm-hmm. So that is something certainly that would be a very welcomed approach for organizations to consider.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. And we're just putting it out there. Maybe there are organizations that are doing it already, but it would be great if it is taken more seriously, especially if your organization is woman-centric, you have a lot of women being employed. In the organization. All right. So I want us to move into another segment, which is our last segment. And we're going to talk about professional identity and mid-career evolution.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. When we get the little red car, it's the equivalent of the, anyway, so when you layer burnout, biology, leadership expectations, and cultural pressure, it's no surprise so many women hit an identity shift mid-career. A lot of us women, we go through it, not even just in the corporate setting, but just personally, we feel amiss, like something is amiss and missing. And we're saying to ourselves, who am I if I'm not producing at the same level,
Right.
And we talk about it. Who am I if I need rest? How dare we need rest?
Hello. But who would think of that?
Yes. And who am I if I'm not evolving? So my question to you is, how does professional identity shift in midlife, especially for these high achieving women?
Yes. I think there comes a point in that kind of space of high achieving and midlife where feeling more elevated or feeling more free also happens because responsibilities have changed. For those who are parents, children on average are no longer in the home full time. So there's a freedom that happens personally that translates into the professional. So then there's more capacity to create, design in their professional arena simply because they have more capacity, right? There also comes a sense of more groundedness in who they are personally, in their personal identity. There's a level of confirmation and personal validation that we step into, that translates professionally as well, where we don't get as rattled in the workplace as we would have before. We also potentially feel more inclined in the workplace to mentor others as well as we experience our midlife career evolutions. So I think those two big things come up because I see quite a lot of shifts happening for my clients and there's women who I'm observing for those two elements. The parenting shift frees them up quite a bit And then just that identity stability, like, this is who I am, this is how I operate, and I'm more confident in my self-awareness. And so it translates to my ability to help others differently. That's also an element of fulfillment for them as well. So I've seen those predominantly pop up.
And you know what I'm reminded of that you spoke about earlier is the invitation.
Yes.
So at this point, it's a new invitation
Absolutely.
to evolve into something higher, something more grounded, a more meaningful existence, I would say. I'm there and I'm loving it. I'm telling you the truth. It really is a time, a beautiful time, I believe, that as women, we shouldn't let it, as you say, we shouldn't let it rattle us. We should, be open-minded and just embrace all that is coming with us in that kind of season. But there is another element, because we have worked so hard for so long and we've gotten to a certain point and people see us in a certain light. Productive people. How do we now separate something that I believe is so important, our worth, from how others see us, in this season of our life? Why is that important for us to separate our worth from, what was before?
Yeah. And I love that you bring that in, because what I have also recognized with so many people is that their professional identity becomes their overall identity, right? So if I'm not working, who am I? What value do I bring? How worthy am I? And so I think it is very imperative for us as women, when we get our invitations throughout life, to always be reminded that at every invitation comes a new level of worth, because there is a new degree of wisdom that you're now stepping into, having experienced certain things, overcoming certain challenges, supporting certain professional efforts, creating certain things. You now step into these other degrees of creativity, wisdom, worth. And being able to separate the professional identity from that personal worthiness is our responsibility to do. Absolutely. If we need help in doing that, then get the help to do that, right? Through counseling and coaching. But I say it is necessary, because when we don't detach from the external validations, we forever end up on this hamster wheel of seeking external all the time. And that one time where you're not getting the external in the way that you used to get the external, all of a sudden, no, oh God, spiral out of control. I'm no longer valuable. I'm no longer worthy, right? So I think, to your point, I love that you raised that. At every invitation, it is now to look at the higher degree of worthiness that you're stepping into, and understanding that that worthiness is there regardless of director, CEO title, ownership title, whatever titles. There is an inherent worthiness as we traverse this womanhood process.
It's a beautiful journey, I believe, and I love this idea of the invitation.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And the fact that you said every invitation brings us to a new level of worth. That is so freeing. It gives us a little bit of peace, and just to reinforce that we have this, if we'll just allow ourselves. They'll say if we'll just zen, and we just allow ourselves to, go through each experience and see it as a beautiful thing. Yes, it might bring a little bit of panic.
Some discomfort.
But if we reframe, we see it in a new light, in a positive light, then we'll do okay. We'll do okay. Right? I want you to share, just to close us off.
Sure.
Beautiful conversation.
Yes.
I want you to share with us, if a Caribbean woman right now is feeling stagnant, she might feel a little bit irrelevant. What is one practical step that she can take to counter that feeling?
I pause, because we're so diverse in our Caribbean identities as women that we find our anchors in many places. So some of us find our anchors in our faith. And I think that for some, it may be that return to your faith, to come back to the word, as we say in the region, come back to that, come back to some of those very core teachings of your heritage, your family heritage and dynamic that allow you to remember and reclaim the worthy and honest identity at your core. That's one big thing that stands out for me. Another thing I believe as Caribbean women is that, again, along the lines of worthiness, is to recognize that we are worthy of support. Right? We are worthy of being cared for as well. It's not always us having to care for everybody and everything. We can be served. And that is something I'm recognizing is somewhat of a hard thing for us to accept service from each other. For you to recognize there are women like yourself, Jackie, there are women like me who are here to help other women, right? We can sit down with you and drink a tea or a coffee and just give you the space to be the vulnerable self, to kind of strategically think out things or cry, right? There are women out here holding space and wanting to hold space for fellow Caribbean women. But for some reason, some of us don't feel worthy of it, or we want to go elsewhere, but those other places do not fully culturally resonate with who we are. So that is why I think it is very important to be anchored and rooted in our authenticity and to know that there are supports out here based on your authenticity. Yeah.
I love that. I really, really love that. And it's such a beautiful way for us to close out our conversation, right? It all goes back to community and holding space for each other, as you just said. And, for us to, I'm kind of going back a little bit out over what has resonated with me. And you talk about what is our anchor in the moment, right? You talked about faith. What's the core teachings that allow us to reclaim our identity at our core? I love that. And also to know that we're worthy of support.
Absolutely.
And to be cared for.
Absolutely.
I love that. A lot of us, it is so hard. And I kind of understand to a point. And, it goes back to the culture and how we were brought up and what has stuck with us. And what has formed and informed who we are as individual women. And I'm always in that we have to just get to know ourselves then, somewhat apart from the things that we have grown up hearing and how we've been socialized.
Absolutely.
And that is why it goes back to, me saying that I love the space that we're in terms of the awareness, the conversations that we're having, and it will change,
Yes.
It will change. We will keep what is good and we will get rid of what is not. Because like I said, our Caribbean community still holds tremendous value.
Yes.
From what our ancestors have passed on to us.
Absolutely.
But we really have to know how to filter, how to sift for the good of us.
Yeah.
So this has been like such a beautiful conversation.
Yes,
I thank you so much, Dr. Kerriann Peart, for sharing with us this afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a delight. Absolute pleasure.
What I want to leave with our community and what I'm taking away from this conversation is that burnout is not a weakness, right? It's not a weakness. And perimenopause is not to be seen as incompetence. They're just transitions that we must go through, invitations, as Dr. Peart shared with us, So maybe this season of our lives isn't about pushing harder, but like I said before, it's more or less us beginning to understand ourselves, our body, our mind, our identity, and what it is asking for. So if this episode resonated with you, share it with another woman, of course, who might be silently navigating these perimenopause streets, these burnout streets, and help her to overcome, right? As usual, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean. Leave a review and let us know how these conversations are impacting you and impacting the community. And we look forward to having our next conversation and inviting you along the ride.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of the Beyond Woman podcast. I hope you're leaving feeling inspired and ready to take action. Remember, you are capable of so much more than you think. Keep pushing those boundaries, keep learning, and keep believing in your limitless potential. We want to stay connected with you, so be sure to follow us on social media at The Beyond Woman Magazine for daily inspiration and behind-the-scenes content, and to join our growing community of empowered women. Visit us at www.TheBeyondWomanMag.com and www.TheBeyondWoman.com, where you will find more resources and articles to support you in your journey. Sign up for our newsletters and be the first to know about our exclusive events and for more opportunities to connect. To all my Caribbean sisters, let's lift each other up. Share this episode with the women in your life who need to hear this message, and let's continue to build this powerful network together. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on this app. Your support helps us to reach more women. Thank you for being part of the Beyond Woman movement. Keep shining, keep growing, and keep living your extraordinary life.